So we gotta have some rules for today. Rules for today's show.
Should I write these down?
No, you just
Am I
listen.
going to forget them? Dan, you know I'm not a good listener.
This is a serious topic, so
Okay.
no laughing, Tony.
I'm going to laugh a bunch because, and here's what I'll in my defense.
No laughing.
I'm not going to laugh necessarily at the central premise of the doc, but I'm definitely going to laugh at how this doc was made. I'll tell you that right now. What are there other rules? I'm already going to break that one.
That's the only rule.
That's the only rule, and I'm not going to follow it.
Hey, watching with Dan and Tony. Hey, watching with Dan and Tony. It's Hey Watching, yeah.
Welcome to Hate Watching with Dan and Tony. On this very special episode, we are doing The Social Dilemma, a movie that just dropped in the past week, 2 weeks at the most.
Yeah, it's recent.
On Netflix, which might be the first Netflix movie we've ever reviewed.
Oh.
It's
Not
definitely
the last.
Not the last. Definitely this is a documentary.
Yep.
From 2020. Tony, what would you say this movie, loosely referred to as a movie, is about?
This movie is about the dangers that social media presents our society as a whole.
Yep. Tony, what do you think the biggest issue is for us human creatures on this planet right now?
Right now?
We're
going to disagree, but I would say us. We are our own worst enemy.
Be more specific.
Be more specific?
Yes.
I don't know if I can be more specific because we are at a time, and this...
So you're saying the population, the human population, the amount of human beings on the planet.
No, not the amount of human beings on the planet. The divisiveness that we have found ourselves in. We're in a time where we're the most socially connected, as this documentary is about. But we are also, I would feel, the most divisive, only because all of those thoughts and opinions are so much more prevalent now and so much easier to access. Like when I was growing up, this is how I'll put it. My father, super Republican, right? Which is fine. Like I have nothing against that, but I was not so much. But in our little town that we grew up in, our suburb, it was mostly Republican people there. I didn't really have any other people that kind of saw the world the way that I did. But then as I got older, now I have millions of people that feel the same way that I do, that I can just I can scroll through Twitter and be like, yes, I agree with you. Yes, I agree with you. And it kind of emboldens us to double down on those beliefs, whether they're right or wrong. And I think that is the problem, is that we're so ready to jump on with those people as opposed to critical thinking. Maybe that's my biggest problem. Critical thinking has seemed to vanish. I'll go back and I'll say that's my problem.
Okay, that's stupid.
Well, give me yours, hotshot.
Oh, there isn't one thing.
Oh my God. That's, first of all, trash question. Next, get out of here. I am firing you from the podcast. Get out of here. What a cop-out.
My point being, you could say climate change, you could say that, you could say Trump, you can say Antifa, you can say QAnon, you can say rise of the right wing, the left wing, the this wing, the that wing, whatever.
I think all of those things stem from critical thinking.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. This documentary wants us to think that it's goddamn Facebook that's the problem.
Yes.
That is the existential threat to democracy, to humanity, to all these things. And at one point in there, stupid Ginger Boy says, it's just a tool, right?
Yes.
And that's the key. It is just a tool.
Yes.
And the tool is not the problem. It's the people using the tool, however they use the tool. And certainly, and they try through this whole thing, try to make it that these stupid Silicon Valley designers have designed into us in some magical way this stuff. And the truth of the matter is stupid people are using the tools stupidly to do stupid things.
Okay.
And you know what? That is the history of humankind.
Absolutely. That's always happened. And that's so my biggest problem with the central premise of the documentary is that it makes it sound like social media began this whole thing. Like
Yes,
it is
exactly.
the root of the problem,
Yes.
which is dangerous in itself because it's almost like a scapegoat. It's like, you know what, we're
Mhm.
fine as people, but this tool is the problem. Wrong, you guys. We are all the problem. And this one
we're the problem.
we are the problem. I'm
The
the problem.
telephone helps exacerbate the usness
Yes.
of making the problem worse.
100%. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a huge part of the problem because I love everything that they brought up in the doc that they're like, this is bad, this is bad. Those are the things I love about social media. Like the ads, the targeted ads that whole side storyline.
Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves because we got to go through this. I mean,
you got me excited, Dan.
Yeah, I know. We can go all. We're going to get to the ads. We're going to get to everything, and we're going to refute so many points that this thing makes, that this stupid documentary makes. And I sat here, I watched like the first 20 minutes, and I got so angry. I was like, we have to shine that laser light that is hate watching with Dan and Tony onto this documentary and take it to the mat once and for all for exactly what you said, for reasonable thinking.
Yeah.
Because this thing does not present it as reasonable thinking. It's not presenting a problem and saying, here's a problem, here are solutions. It's like, here's a problem, it's going to destroy the world.
See you later.
Documentary over. So we start with my boy, I call him Ginger Boy.
But that's... No, yeah, you say it.
Tristan Harris.
I'm sorry.
And right from the beginning, he gets a notification on his phone, buzz, buzz, and he's like this, I worship you. And I'm like, there you go. This is a drug addict trying to explain to us to stop being drug addicts. If you can't control your own behavior with the behavior machine that you are railing against,
I'm not going to listen to you.
Why should I listen to you?
Yeah, not a chance.
Not a chance. And so we start with him, and then we get the whole list of all these guys that worked for Pinterest, Apple, Google, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and we meet the yo-yo that I made up the like button.
Which I mean, listen, guys. First of all, am I to believe that it was just that one guy that literally was like, you know what's a great idea? Everyone else in this room of 1 million people working at this company.
I think he actually did. I think
did he really?
Positive. I think so. Yeah, and that's.
I think he did a great job.
But he doesn't think he did a great job.
I think he did at the time. Just because I think this regret that they keep trying to make these people show is, one, not super genuine, but two, it's just kind of dumb. Like, yeah, you created something and people are misusing it. Welcome to the world. There's not a thing in this world that's been created for one reason that wasn't changed and used for a different reason. That just doesn't exist.
Mm-mm.
Get over yourself.
So then we have a bunch of lines. Felt like it was a force for good. Now I'm very concerned. These were tools. How they're used is different than expected. What's the problem? And so and the guy asks him, what's the problem? They're like, meh. Ooh, there's so many things. It's like,
I think one guy even says that is like, I'm trying to narrow it down because there's so many problems.
There's so many things, which then we should have his paragraph where he says, social media has the ability to accentuate the problems of human beings and also is an addictive form of technology that makes itself more and more addictive as you go along. And you're like, exactly. And that it's pretty straightforward and pretty understandable and not all that confusing. No,
I mean, it's understandable because we've been in it long enough that we actually do know the problem.
Yes.
So my biggest question about this documentary is this supposed to be a revelation?
Well, yeah, they're pointing it out to all the millennials, and
those people don't know. Are you telling me that there's people in the world that don't know? So the first hour of this documentary is kind of just explaining capitalism and marketing. And I was so bored because I was like, are there really people that don't understand that these things are businesses built on this model? Because that is shocking to me. That's more shocking than the actual documentary by far.
When I went into Google, I expected it to be this force for good. I did not expect that Google would want to try to make money.
Right? Like, yes, you did. It's a business. It's a tech business. The whole point of them is to make billions and billions of dollars. I don't know. So I was a little confused on the first half of the movie, and then the second half, I was like, okay, they're bringing up some interesting theories in a very dangerous way. Is how I felt. But we'll get there.
Dangerous way. So now we're introduced to the family, which the family is young daughter, medium son of indeterminate. I'm not sure if he was in high school or in college.
Well, I mean, he's been around.
School.
He's been around for a while. So he's supposed to be in high school, but he's definitely older than that.
He's like 23 years old
for sure.
Then
he's
like
great. I love him, by the way. Not in this documentary, but in general, he was in Santa Clarita Diet. And he's awesome in that show. He's so good, which is a big problem of this whole after school special bullshit that they do, which will tear apart. But they used actors that are actual actors. So it was like a mini movie inside the doc, as opposed to like a recreation or something like that you'll see in other docs sometimes. It was very weird to me.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Usually you hire actors to recreate something that really happened so that you can show it. This thing made up out of whole cloth this storyline that is so stupid.
It was written by a child. Like someone who's maybe 8 years old and doesn't have a lot of friends, and all of his friends are on phones.
Oh, shit, we're not recording.
You're not recording? I'm recording, don't worry.
Oh, you're recording.
Yeah, don't worry. You're so funny. I'm keeping that in.
Comedy gold. Gone. Where's our comedy gold? Wasted.
I don't know if we have comedy gold. Maybe like a bronze or something. What's not bronze? What's fourth place?
Participation. Okay, so written by a child. So there's the young daughter, the teenage-ish boy who's 23, who's in high school but really in college.
Yeah, for
who
sure.
knows? The older daughter who's gotten out of college but isn't in college and doesn't do anything except drive everyone around
and live at home. Which is fine. I'm not judging. I lived at home for a while. It's fine. Save up money. Do what you want to do. But she doesn't seem to have any of her own activities that she does.
There's mom, who's just always on her iPad and doesn't even know her kids exist. And then there's dad, who's like, did dad have a line?
Dad did have lines, but they were not plot driven at all. They were just kind of reactive so we know that there is a dad in the family, even though he's not really part of the family, if that makes sense.
So we didn't even establish what dad, mom's issue is she's iPad mom. I'm like, okay, yeah. iPad mom, that's fine.
I've got one of those.
My mom is on her computer all day, doing all her things, talking to her friends, doing her thing. And it's great. She before the COVID, my mom would go out and socialize with all her friends. And my mom has a perfectly, she goes on her walk. She walks the dog. Mm-hmm. She has a perfectly normal life with all of this social media in her life. And you know what? My mom's life is not driven by that. She is not salivating at the like button, living or dying by it. And the implication is that everyone in the world lives and dies by this like button.
Yes, which is not true.
There are lots of people that do. I look at my phone tons and watch what goes on. I wish that our podcast or our show here had 1,000 times more things, but it doesn't.
I just want to say right now, I don't, Dan. I like the small community that we've created.
Tiny is the
minuscule.
Word. Tiny, small is kind of a big word. Tiny, minuscule. Okay, so we meet the family, and the older sister's like tech addiction. I think we do fake news, magic spell. Ugh.
Yeah. Who's the guy? Is Tristan the guy that does magic throughout the dock? Is he the one that does the subpar magic? And then the people behind the camera are like, "Oh, do that again." Have they never been to a close-up magic show? This kid's not even good.
We have a friend who's we have two friends who are real magicians.
Yeah.
And
Maybe
when
that's
they do
the problem.
when they do magic at you, you're just like, okay, you're amazing. It's incredible. I'm going to sit here and enjoy it. I don't feel like he's ripping me off or conning me with his horrible magic.
Yeah. They do kind of make it sound like, I mean, which it is, but they're like, magic is manipulation, yada, yada. It's like, yeah, it's enjoyment. I like to be fooled. I think that's fun. When someone can do something that I don't understand, that excites me because I'm like, God, that's cool. Good for you. I'm not like, oh, it's magic.
And I think one of the operative things about it is they kind of act like magic is a con and sort of like that, as opposed to very few people, at least that I have ever seen in a magic show, want to fight the magician because the magician has challenged their reality. They know they're being fooled. They know it, and still they try to, because it makes us want to think we're smart to try to figure out what he's doing.
Exactly. There's like two camps that go to magic, as far as I can tell. And it's the people that just genuinely enjoy the whole show of it. You know, they're like, wow, this is a spectacle and I love it. And then there's people like, I assume us, that are like intrigued and we want to beat them. I always want to beat the magician, and I never do. And that's why it's fun. You know, because it's like, you got me again. Where's the quarter? I don't know.
That's the thing I love about magic is like when our buddy Harrison's doing magic, he can force a card on me. And it's like, I know he's going to make me a rational human being who thinks that I am in complete control of my destiny. Take the card that he wants 100 times out of 100. Every time he's going to make me take that card.
And you're thinking of, like, the whole time you're trying to outsmart him. Because you know, or at least follow along. You're not just along for the ride, but you're there trying to make decisions opposite of what you think it's this whole give and take game that's just amazing. And when it works, it's beautiful. I don't know. I feel like we're off topic, but
yes, we're gonna get to all this stupidity in this. So Ginger Boy is like setting up for his TED Talk, going on 60 Minutes. At one point, he's in front of Congress.
Is that a real TED Talk?
It wasn't a TED Talk,
but it's a real thing that he did. I just thought it was staged for the.
No,
dog.
I think it was. Okay. I think it was a real thing, probably.
Okay.
And a little bit about TED Talks is when you first hear about TED Talks, you're like, oh, this is incredible. Then you watch a few and you see some that tell you something really interesting, and then you see more, and you're just like, this is not interesting.
Who decides? I genuinely don't know. This is off topic again with TED Talks, but who decides who gets a TED? How do you get a TED Talk?
I think TED Talk. I think it's not a corporation, but it's an actual group, and then they make decisions.
So do you submit like a portfolio or something?
I think they look for people. It's
okay.
Yeah, I think
there's a lot of really bad TED Talks that I never would have given the green light. I don't know.
Thanks, Tony.
You're welcome.
So then we get the one guy saying 50 designers, 30-year-old white guys, made decisions which impacted 2 billion people. And he said they're going to have thoughts that they didn't intend to have. And that's the whole magical mind control that these Silicon Valley tech bros think that they've weaved onto the world.
Weaved onto the world.
And that, I mean, I guess the corollary to that, and it's things that they didn't intend to happen either.
Which is wrong.
What do you mean? Wait, what do you
they
think?
Definitely, I mean...
Well, they intended to make us addicted.
Yeah.
But like the other things that happened from this, they didn't have control over.
Control, no. But I don't think, again, hindsight 2020, right?
Sure.
But if someone were to tell me 20 years ago that you're going to give me a device to hold in my hand that can do everything I could ever want, I would be like, yeah, we're gonna be on that thing all the time. It's gonna ruin social progress 100%. It's not like you could not foresee the problems that they are now saying we have. They just didn't think about them. I don't think that's the same thing as
They didn't care about the consequences.
yes, that's right.
No.
Which is, I guess that's, science.
So
I'm
so
going
then-
anti-science on this podcast, I guess.
So then he realizes that what they're doing is manipulative, and so he sits at home every night and writes up his big manifesto and brings it into work. And then, as he explains how it spreads through the company, he quantifies exactly how many people looked at it, when they looked at it, how they looked at it, in a very self-serving, like, check me out, I'm the guy who can make all these people think about something.
Yeah,
And then
it's
he
social
waited
media.
for the revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Did the revolution come, Tony?
Of course it didn't come. Here's my thought on this presentation that he put together, is that I would assume his boss read it
Oh yeah.
and goes, well, yeah, this is our business model. What do you want me to do with that? You're describing what we do and how we're making money. So GFY? Like, what do you want me to do about it? Next.
Maybe these guys are just a bunch of dumb, naive babies who didn't understand. I mean, we're going to get to it when they all went to the mind manipulation class, and then they're surprised when they come out the other end from the mind manipulation class that they're manipulating minds. Huh?
I know this. So that's what I was trying to say before, is that you have to know. You know what you're doing. You're doing it on purpose. Are you just pretending you don't? Like, are you lying to yourself?
There's a show on HBO right now called The Vow. Did I already talk about this?
I don't know.
Okay, it's called The Vow. It's a real show, and it's about this guy that set up this sort of cult, right? And you'd come in there, you take all these classes, and then you would then recruit more people to take more classes, and of course at the top this guy is forming his own secret sex cult, which is it's great. The show's the greatest thing ever. But one of the sort of central tenets of like the teachings is we're going to do good for the world. And all these dumb white people think
they're
that
fully
by going
on board.
Yeah, they think by going into tech, we're going to save the world. And the truth of the matter is you might make the tools that are put out there to people that save the world. You're not saving the world. You're making tools that people saving the world can use. And that's the whole thing. The heroes of the world are not the tech bros that make the phones. Yeah. They're the people who actually use these tools as tools and not as just tools to make more people want to use the tools.
Yeah.
And surprise, surprise, there's lots of people out there. I was just watching a thing today, and Jon Stewart was out there fighting for medical rights for soldiers that were in, I think, Iraq.
Great.
He's saving the world. He's helping people. Like button is not saving the world.
No, I also don't know. I wish that he would have explained more what he meant when they say like it's a force for good, because I genuinely want to know what they were hoping it would have been.
Because, well, they see it is a force. It is helpful and good because you see things where you see protesters using the phones in countries to group together,
Mm-hmm.
and you see that communication helps. I mean, there's a million ways that a phone helps.
For sure.
And all these things help make the world, it's like telemedicine. You can name 100 things, and but you see, they're thinking they're doing that, and it's like, no.
Oh, for sure. But let's look at specifically the like button.
Yeah.
In no world do I see that as a positive thing. I would love to hear.
I
makes
can
that a good thing.
It's a good thing. I post drawings on my Instagram, and I see which ones people respond to, and I begin to understand more and more what people respond to. You understand what it is.
So you're building an algorithm to create better products for your customers.
Absolutely.
Great. Okay.
Absolutely. And that's the other thing. back when I did a lot of shows, it'd be the same thing. But you do it in person because you would see how they would respond to things that they were looking at, and you'd be like, "This is successful. This is not successful." And when you have a product that's not successful, you don't make that product again.
Sure,
and that's the whole idea.
But the bad people also use that.
Sure.
So that, to me, that's not a good thing. That's just exacerbating a problem. Again, like I don't know.
I know what you're saying, but you see, that's the thing. It's a tool. It's useful for how it's used. If you use it for evil, it makes more evil.
Exactly.
If you use it for good, it makes more good. And that's the whole thing.
But I'm 100% that, but they had to have known that, is what I'm saying. Because, so when he says it's a tool for good, no, it's not. It's just a tool. It can be used any way. I have a hard time believing that these people thought it would only be used in a positive way. That's where my problem lies. Is that
I completely believe they all didn't realize it because they're a bunch of dumb tech bros, and that's and they don't spend any time really unpacking what it is they're doing and why they're doing it. They're doing it because that's what they're taught to do through their schools. And then they get their job, and then they get their gigantic paycheck, and then they have their beautiful apartments, and they have their expensive. I mean, did you ever watch Silicon Valley?
Of course.
Yeah. Just think about Silicon Valley. Those guys are always, what's his name? The satanic guy. He's always thinking about what it means, but the rest of them aren't.
That's true.
Because he and that's what makes his character the one you relate to with the most, in my opinion. That's who I relate to. Because he knows that what they're doing is walking that fine line, and see, that's the thing that Silicon Valley is different, is they're actually in control of the line they walk.
Yeah, which is a lie.
99.9% of these tech bros don't make any decision about good, bad, and evil. Sure. They just do what they're told, and their bosses do what they're told, and the stock market tells them what to do.
Yeah, well, that's, capitalism. That's business. And they're doing great.
Then we have Mr. Dreadlocks. Oh my God. Mr. Lazy Eye, the eye that wanders around.
Yeah, a little bit.
Cultural appropriation much?
Oh, sure. Yeah. My wife said the same thing, and I was like, well, maybe he just doesn't bathe. I don't know what his deal is.
Well, we know he doesn't bathe because you can't bathe with dreadlocks. Yeah.
So well, don't you like put him in a like a wrap?
You can't.
Look, I don't even have hair, so.
And then we get a whole thing about how the advertisers are the customers, which is absolutely true. If you're not, just like when you watch television, you're not paying for television. The Jack in the Box is paying for television. Everyone knows that.
But and am I to believe they don't know that these medias are the same way? Like I didn't learn anything from this documentary. And therefore, I was just bored and annoyed that I was forced to watch it by you.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, he's literally describing like marketing. That's what he's doing.
And now we're gonna get he Dread Dude talks about how he says changing behavior is actually the product, which is not true. And then he gives this thing. If I said, give me $10 million and I can change things 1%, you would do it. I would give you what? No,
go. You go.
Well, see what he's really saying is if I gave you $10 million, you would have a 1% share of the audience available to you. That's a very different thing. Yeah. Then I can change 1%. Because if like with our show, if we spent $10 million promoting our show and it changed 1%, we would go from 5 subscribers to 5.05 subscribers. We go up no subscribers.
Yeah.
Right. So
I think 1 or 2 people would be like, take pity on us. You know what I mean? Out of all, if we shotgunned this across the globe, there'd be a couple of people that are like, I feel bad for this fat dude and his old friend. Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about Quibi. And you say,
Oh, okay.
Dan, why are we talking about Quibi? What do you know about Quibi, Tony?
I know that it's like a miniature Netflix is what I call it. So it's short content, and I think it's only for the phone. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like 6-minute episodes of a longer 2-hour story or something like that. It's not something that I'm interested in.
10-minute episodes of longer stories, and it's supposed to be consumed on your phone, and it's done by like Jeffrey Katzenberg, who did DreamWorks and all these other things, and they spent $2 billion doing it. $2 billion.
But it's just a web series, right?
No, it's a bunch of web series, and it's a platform.
I know it's a platform for web series. It's called YouTube. That already exists, as far as I can tell. So now I'm paying a subscription to see content that you couldn't sell to like big studios. That's my takeaway from this company.
Well, the whole idea is they want to convince you to subscribe to this because it has all this new special content in a way and format that you want to use. And they spent $2 billion and they have 3.5 million downloads. Just downloads. That's not subscribers necessarily. Sure. Versus Disney Plus, 55 million, Netflix, 182 million, population of the United States, 328 million. So for $2 billion, he got basically 1% of the U.S. population to download it.
Which is what Dreadlock said. Do you think they paid him?
There's a difference between $10 million and $2 billion.
You're right, there is.
And the other difference is at 3.5 million downloads, it is a disaster. It has to be. It is a failure of unimaginable proportions. And this just tells us, and they spent, Quibi ads everywhere, billboards, just TV everywhere. And you know what? All that marketing, you know what it did? It did nothing because it was a product no one wanted. So you can't just give someone $10 million and have them magic a thing into existence. There has to be a need for the thing. There has to be a want for the thing.
You pay $10 million to get people to see it. That's all it is. And then people get to decide. I'm sorry. You're not forcing me to decide. You can try, but if you got a shitty product, I'm not going to buy it. I'm just not going to do it. There's the problem I think now is that there's just so much content out there that if you give me dull, boring content, like I have no interest in checking that out. I can just go and click somewhere else and I've got 90 other shows I could watch on my queue.
And that's the whole thing is Netflix got to where it's at through a whole different path. By creating a certain business model and following through with that business model and then adapting that business model continuously, just like Disney. Disney started out making short cartoons for kids. Now they sell us theme parks and they sell us toys and they sell us everything in between.
And I'm in. I love it all.
And there are times at which Disney almost failed. Disney almost failed.
I would love a history of Disney documentary. Does that exist?
Oh yeah, there's probably tons of them. There are. I want
to watch it.
And yeah, no, Disney as a movie studio almost collapsed. They had multiple movie after movie after movie. The Black Cauldron, The Rescuers Down Under,
which The Rescuers
are movies that people love, but they were movies that did not move the brand forward and almost destroyed the brand. And it could have gotten bought, just like Star Wars was a thing and then it got bought and conglomerated and, so things die and get absorbed and moved and changed. And just thinking you're the smartest, Jeffrey Katzenberg sits there in a room and he says, I'm the smartest guy in the room. I'm going to make this thing that I think is a good idea and spend $2 billion. And you know what it is? It's not a good idea. It's a terrible idea. And this is a guy who's made a lot of great ideas. Can just as easily make a terrible idea.
Yeah, I mean, you can't bat 1,000. Let's be honest. Eventually, you're going to come up with a bad idea. The next idea he has will probably be a smash hit. He'll bounce back. The company probably not, but he personally will bounce back. This, real quickly, I just got an email that DC Universe is closing down. Do you know anything about DC Universe?
Is that Is that where the comics are stored, or?
There are comics, but they also had DC original programming. So they had
Oh, so that's why Doom Patrol got bumped.
correct. So that now those are over at HBO Max, I believe,
Yeah.
and they're shutting down that part of the DC universe, and now they're changing it just to a comic thing like Marvel Unlimited. And I was like, they made good content, but
Yeah,
DC,
the content was great, actually.
DC as a brand just doesn't have the pull that a Marvel does right now, and it may not have been the best decision to start your own studio.
Well, that's the whole thing is they've tried these things before and they haven't gone off. Disney Plus being successful could have easily not been successful, but it's a thing that people are used to through Netflix, and they feel like they could just plop their kid down in front of it, and it was the right they hit it at the right time, and it's successful.
And the right price point. That was a big thing for Disney Plus, at least for me, is that I don't have kids, but I am a kid. So I was interested, but then they did a lot of bundles. So like you get that and ESPN Plus for a good price, or it's one of the cheaper ones just at its base price. And I was like, I'll try it. I'll check it out. And then I did, and I don't use it all that often, but I still have it.
Yeah, and at some point you'll wake up and you'll turn it off, and their numbers might keep growing, or their numbers might plateau and stay sort of the same. I'd had it for a month, and then I turned it off because I watched. No, I did the DC thing for a month and then turned it off, and I think I did the Disney thing for a month and then turned it off. I watched most of Doom Patrol, and I was like, that's what I wanted to see.
Yep.
And then I just turned it off. And then they just talk about building models to predict actions. And then we start getting into the whole thing where we have these three stupid guys in a room with a computer version of Benji, and they're like feeding him stuff to make him do things that they want him to do.
First, before we really even get into the mechanism of them in this doc, I just want to again bring up, it's weird to choose an actor who I recognize, but not enough where I'm like, oh, I know your name. I could not tell you his name, but I know that he was in Mad Men for a while, and he's done things. So I'm pulled immediately out of whatever they're trying to make me think, and I'm like, who is this guy? Why is he doing? Is this where his life has gone? Because Mad Men was a hit show.
So you're looking at this as a failure of his ability to yes. get better parts.
100%. And I started feeling bad for him. And I was like, this is where you've ended up. I hope you bounce back, dude. Good luck. Like, I wish him the best, but this is really sad for me.
So in the midst of all this, they're doing this whole thing where they're trying to get him to hook up with this girl. And then they talk about send him a wave.
Right.
Which I guess is like a poke.
Yeah,
and I'm
it's
just
gotta
like,
be the same thing.
It felt so much because they didn't want to use the real terms. Probably
yeah,
they didn't want to get in trouble.
There's a couple of times, yep, that they use like words that are close so you know what they're saying, but they're different, so you think that they're dumb.
And it made you feel like they were, it was written like 10 years ago. It's one of those after school specials. Oh, she ever poked me back? Oh, I don't know.
I will say that this is my favorite set of the whole doc, and only the part where the kid, the animated kid is up there just like shaking back and forth. I loved that, Dan. That was my favorite thing until they made it the real kid, and then I didn't like it anymore.
They did make it the real kid.
Yeah, at the end they made it the real kid hanging there, and I was like, oh, well, he looks dead. This is really not appealing.
And I wrote cue sad music. And I actually, since we sort of, one of my plans for this show, which I didn't get to fruition because I was watching Magic on the computer, was I was going to download like a $10 sad music, like royalty free thing. And then I'd play that every once in a while.
Only when you're making a point that means nothing, but you're saying it dramatically. Because there was a ton of empty dialogue that was like just supposed to hit really hard. The lady with the crazy 80s hair, do you remember her? I don't know if we've gotten to her yet.
Oh, that lady. You mean the dark-haired lady, kind of an older lady?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, she had some bad lines.
But every line she said so dramatically. As if she was like saying these super profound things, but they were just base and stupid. And I was like, get this lady out of the documentary. I don't even remember her title card, but she's not good.
Yes. So now Ginger Boy does his magic. He talks
Hey.
about magicians as the first neural scientists. Shut up. I could fool adults.
It reminded me of what is that Jesse Eisenberg? Now You See Me?
Oh, God.
Is that what it is? When he's in the handcuffs and he's like, we're the smartest people in the room, and then he throws the handcuff. I don't remember exactly what happens. but it reminded me of that speech. And I was like, oh, maybe Tristan wrote for the movie.
Maybe he did. That movie's on the hit list. Then we talk about the Stanford Persuasive Technology Lab. And you know what the guy says? We show a little bit of his presentation from the Stanford Persuasive Lab. He says to everybody in the room, "You're all geniuses."
Yeah. It's that positive affirmation that everybody needs, you know? Hey, you're a genius. Good job.
And here we go. You can't ignore a photo tag.
I ignore them.
True.
I ignore it all the time. Only because I don't have notifications on my phone. That might help. I don't know. But if people tag me, I'll see it later. So I log into Facebook maybe once, twice a week tops. And I'll get to this when we get to the ads. But I click on the notifications, don't even read them. I'm like, I don't care what any of you people are doing. You are not my friends. If I need to know something, I'll know it already.
Tony, can we talk about the way you lost that one friend?
Wait, what? Which one?
The guy who had the baby.
Oh, I don't know if that's appropriate.
Okay,
he's a sweet guy, and I wasn't a great friend, and
Tony was a terrible friend, and at one point this guy was tired of Tony not responding to him on social media. So Tony says to me, the guy said, if you don't respond in the next 24 hours, we're no longer friends. And this is what Tony said to me. And that was 4 days ago.
Okay. So, now we're talking about it. Just really quickly.
This is more about you being a jerk than him.
100%. No, he's a really sweet guy. He's a good guy. He's really nice. People love him. I'm busy. Right? Like I have a full-time job and I have a wife, right? Like when I go to work and I do my work, I come home and I just want to spend time with her for the most part. Right. And then in the time in between, I kind of just want to be by myself because I haven't been by myself at all. So I want to read or play video games or do whatever it is I want to do. And I will get back to you. Dan, you know this. I'll get back to you when I'm ready. Like I'm on my own timetable.
Whether it ruins a friendship doesn't matter. Tony's going to do it on his preferred time frame. If
you give me an ultimatum about being your friend, you're out to me. Like, fuck you. I'm not going to choose you over my own personal happiness. You give me an ultimatum, I automatically shut down and I'm like, I'm not going to choose you. If you did the same thing, Dan, if you ever said that to me, you're out. I'm like, you know what? See you later, man. Good luck. Again, I want to reiterate, he's a really nice guy. Like,
super nice guy.
One of the nicest guys I've ever met.
Tony's the jerk.
100%.
So they did a thing about saying that Facebook did a thing where they were subliminally trying to get people to vote in the 2018 election, and it worked, is what they said.
16, right? Or were they saying midterms?
No, 18. I think it was 18.
Okay. I have no idea.
I have never heard this. I didn't try and track that story down, but if that's true, that's super interesting. And I would have liked to hear about 5 minutes about that because
sure.
They're manipulating people like very specifically on something that doesn't have to do with advertising and all that. I would actually find that very problematic, actually.
So, and this is where the second half of the documentary is far more interesting to me. I could have done without the first hour of just the base descriptions of business. Like, I don't care. I understand what you're trying to do and you're doing a very good job at it. Great. But I do find it interesting, the idea that when I Google a problem and my mother Googles a problem, we come up with very different results.
That was interesting.
Yes,
Yeah.
this whole thing is a real problem for me because it is definitely creating a stronger divide where each side is being pushed further away from the center. And I find myself, left, mostly center, slightly left. That's kind of where I live.
Sure.
But it's people are being radicalized because we're fueling those ideas as opposed to this critical thinking where we give, the opposite point of view and you can kind of see what other people are coming from. We just keep on shoving the information that supports your claims and strengthens your claims. And it's tough.
I have a point to make about that, which I'm going to make at the end. But okay. I wanted to make a point about, they talk about all these things. And let's do Facebook advertising right now.
Yes.
No, well, let's do Facebook advertising and YouTube advertising. I'm going to start with YouTube advertising. I go on YouTube.
Okay.
And you know what I get? I get Donald Trump ads.
You do?
I get tons of Donald Trump ads. And you know what? Let me tell you what I watch on YouTube. I watch Magic videos, Magic the Gathering card game. I watch the Dodo animal videos, and then I watch comedians. The Dodo's like the sweet animal videos. I told you about that.
Oh, yes. Yes, you did.
And I watch comedian stuff. I've been watching a lot of John Mulaney. But the commercials they give me are like these really stupid. I get Donald Trump commercials. I get Epoch Times commercials. I get things that as I was saying to my wife, I get commercials about guys shaving their balls.
Yeah.
I don't want those commercials.
The manscaping.
Yes. I click the no, not like, and this thing cannot learn what it should be advertising to me. There's
that's interesting.
And my suggestions are fine. It suggests videos and they all make sense. But the advertising is just horrendous. And so when they act like these three magical robot guys are making all these really good decisions, no, they're not. They're making terrible decisions for me, and it pisses me off.
Well, because they're not actually making the decisions for you. They're making it based off of who paid them the most money.
Yeah. So,
for sure. 100%.
So once again, we're not getting this wonderful targeted advertising that I want. Target me with advertising. Instagram does a great job of targeting my advertising.
That's what I was going to bring up.
And I love it. I'm like, I click on Instagram ads all the time because
constantly,
they properly
Dan.
Figure out what it is that I want and See, that was my other big point was it's about figuring out what you want and also figuring out what you don't want.
Mm-hmm. Because it's almost more the second one.
Yes, exactly. And see, I think that's good. I think that's healthy.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, so what else were you going to say?
No, that's what I've been waiting to get to this entire time, is that the way that I use social media is for ads, which is kind of bonkers. I very rarely go on Instagram. Don't really understand it. I'm an old guy. I post pictures of my cat sometimes. I don't know. I don't have a lot of cool things.
It's crazy. It's bonkers. There's photos. What's happening? What are people doing? They're square, not rectangular. I'm used to rectangular.
But I will scroll through this thing for like 10 minutes a day just looking for ads and be like, yep, I want to buy that. And I want to buy that. I don't want to buy that one. Oh, I'm definitely buying that one. I buy like 3 things a day off of these Instagram ads. They have great t-shirts that I like. It's I adore it.
And that's Tony wants an all ads Instagram.
100%. I am a consumer to the nth degree. I love to buy things and I love to own things. It's a very real problem, but I like to be fueled. And so, YouTube doesn't do it. I don't know if I've ever watched a full ad. As soon as the skip ad gets done, I'm out. Just like, this is dumb. I don't want to see this. This is dumb. I want to see this.
I watched the movie trailers on there sometime. I just watched the entire trailer for the new Blumhouse movie, Freaky.
I've never heard of it. I'll look it up.
It's Freaky Friday, but the girl switches places with the serial killer.
That sounds amazing.
It looked hilarious. Vince Vaughn is the serial killer. I was convinced. I watched the whole New Mutants trailer the other day. I thought it looked good.
Yeah,
it looked really good.
I'm not on board with New Mutants, but
no one else is. I'm the target audience because.
But again, I will see it. 100%. I'm definitely going to at least rent it, but I'm not going to go to the theater to see a movie that is probably going to be shitty.
Ugh, Fantasy Island. Ugh, not a fantasy.
Fantasy Island. Was that
Blumhouse.
Was it?
Same,
Okay.
same company. And you were like, they had, what's his name? Michael Pena.
Yeah, who I love.
But he's neither
anything.
menacing nor suave. He's like kind of funny, goofy.
So he's Michael Pena.
He's Michael Pena. What was I watching? Oh, 60 minutes or less, whatever, 30 minutes or less, the pizza delivery one.
Jesse?
Oh my God. I watched the end of that. It was horrible.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's really, really bad.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Michael Pena is like the ultimate bad guy in it.
I honestly don't even remember that. I saw that in the theaters and never wanted to see it again.
Michael Pena was the bad guy. Okay. Danny McBride was the sub bad guy. And then there was like, Danny McBride had like a bonus dude who was his third dude. And then it was Aziz Ansari. And
yeah, that sounds right.
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah.
It's like, man, you took this great cast and you made something that was terrible. Okay, here we go. Wait, here's the thing that got me the most upset of the whole movie. Settle down, Dan.
Okay.
Ginger Boy, Tristan, says, no one got upset when bicycles showed up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I remember.
Tony, do you think people got upset when bicycles showed up?
I got upset. I'll tell you
that.
No,
No, really. Back in the 1800s, when bicycles showed up, do you think people had a reaction to them?
For sure. 100%.
And do you think there was a lot of negative reaction to it?
I would assume there would be. There's negative reaction to almost any new thing.
Exactly! But this guy wants to make it so that his phones and his like buttons and all the crimes that he's committed against humanity by making his tech bro garbage is the biggest crimes against humanity ever. That a bicycle's just a tool that people use, and no one's going to have an opinion about bicycles or cars or planes and how it changes our environment and everything we do and how we live.
Or television.
Oh my God.
Or the big one, that because this happened in my lifetime, is this almost exact conversation happened with video games. Yeah. Like 20 some years ago, we're just living that same cycle. And there's a part in the doc where they say there's this thought that, we've lived through things like this before and we'll live through this one as well. And they make that as a dangerous thought process, but this is we repeat this process over and over. And sure, it's getting more and more ludicrous. Like, it's definitely getting worse.
It's not, though.
I wasn't around for most of them.
They make this one really spurious argument, and they talk about how never before has data processing gone up this fast.
Okay.
And it's absolutely true.
Yeah, that's fact. Yeah.
But their point they're trying to make is they're trying to say that change is happening at that
faster.
Same rate.
Yes.
And it's not.
It's not.
Change
100%.
happens at exactly the same rate it always does. Just like all the racial justice stuff that's going on right now. It's like things are changing. Gay marriage changed in a nanosecond in a positive way.
Yeah.
And I'm still stunned that it happened as quick as it did. See, and those are positive changes. The negative changes don't happen that fast.
Yeah.
The negative changes usually take time. And to think that they're going to happen in a nanosecond, well, actually, they just take whatever time they take.
Yeah, it's just what it is. It is
what it is. And, yeah.
But let's talk about the bicycle, Dan.
Yes, the bicycle.
Here I am, walking down the street, and some jackhammer coming up behind me. He doesn't say on your left, and just almost runs me over. I am against bicycles. I will just say that, because the people that ride bicycles using the tool for evil are the worst. I'll just say that's my opinion on bicycles.
And I was so mad about this thing, I actually tweeted out to the dude that he was absolutely wrong about bicycles. And I went online and I was able to find a history of bicycles, and I was able to read through his guy's texts, and I found somebody writing a letter to the editor talking about how bicycles were going to ruin the world. And when there were not even 1,000 bicycles in the world, they were outlawed from riding on the sidewalks in cities. Wasn't even 1,000 of them in the world.
When did we backtrack on that? Because let's make that a reality again.
It is. They are enacting laws against bicycles in some cities because we have the mobs of the bicycle people at night mobbing up places. They're outlawing bicycle mobs. They're making laws right now against bicycles.
And here's what I will say. I love the idea of bikes. You know, getting somewhere a little bit faster while getting some exercise. Great. It's great. But people misuse the bicycle, Dan, and they got to get off my sidewalks. And I think we should do a whole city makeover where we create a nice, clean bike lane. Santa Monica does a great job of having bike lanes. They're color-coded.
Don't start talking about Santa Monica.
Why? What's wrong with Santa Monica?
Because not as much right now, but the scooter situation with all the what became a nightmare. Shannon, don't start my wife because she works down there.
Are they allowed on sidewalks? I thought they were.
No, they aren't. But they were causing all sorts of problems. So like everything that comes along, as you said,
which is a new thing.
Is a new thing, and it's going to have to get legislated. And that's one of the points of this doc is there needs to be legislation on some of this stuff, and that's absolutely true.
And yes, I agree with that premise. Mm-hmm. But the entire doc is not about that premise. No. They present this as the most dangerous problem facing humanity in the whole entire history of humanity. And that like weird paranoia is almost this, I'll call it propaganda, because that's what they keep saying that is happening on the social media. This is propaganda in a very dangerous way. It started from a kernel of honesty and truth, and something I agree we need. And they just really shit the bed with it, in my opinion.
One of the guys says he had to write himself software to lose his Reddit addiction.
They didn't really explain what that meant, right?
He must have. Well, and that goes into. Then we go into the whole kitchen safe scene.
Hold your phone. We got to talk about that.
Which, yeah, that's why we're going to talk about, because I think this is the same thing. So they're all at the table, and is it the sister or the mom? Mom's like, okay, we're going to have a real dinner. Give me your phone. She puts the phones in a kitchen safe and locks them for an hour. And of course, immediately the phones start beeping. And the little girl goes over there. We didn't do the elephant ears, but whatever. She goes over there.
We'll talk about that afterwards.
Oh no, that's next. We're not even. We're just getting to elephant ears.
I told you this wasn't going to be a short episode.
This might be our longest episode ever. So bad. So the thing beeps. The little girl goes over there and she wants to get at her phone, and I don't know if she took a hammer, but she crushes the kitchen safe and takes her phone out.
Yeah.
What would happen in your family if you, as a child, had broken the kitchen safe
as a child,
to get your phone?
Hell, as an adult, if I went home at 35 and broke something in my dad's kitchen, he would whoop my ass, damn. Okay, I wouldn't walk straight for a week. But
we're not laughing about that, but we're laughing about that.
It's because it happens to me. It's fine. Okay, so a huge problem with this side movie that they created is just how unrealistic and stupid it is. But the problems in this family, again, is not the phones. This family, when they put their phones away, they are incapable of having a sentence to each other. I mean, guys,
can't even talk.
You could just talk about your social media. That's a topic you could just bring up, but instead you're just silent and you stare at each other. I don't think so. Your family has deep-seated problems. You all need therapy. But onto your point, no one reacts really. They're just like, no.
Mom doesn't even care. She doesn't reprimand the girl. She's just like, one less kitchen safe in the world.
Right. And then the guy, the kid, the boy, Benji, the boy's phone.
Benji.
Oh, that's right. And Ben and Jerry's. His phone is like broken. And then he's just kind of upset about it. He's like, you broke my phone. Great. But this is $800 piece of equipment, dude.
No, broke the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually, the implication was a cracked screen, so it was still working. He could still access information, but the
Yes.
screen was cracked. Um, and so the mom's like, now we get this whole weird bargain, not with the daughter who's like left in a huff, who's broken the screen. She doesn't get like, you're grounded for a year, no phone
And
for
they
another
wonder
year.
why their kids are a nuisance. They don't have any rules.
So the mom's like, if you don't use the phone for a week, 7 days, which no one can function in the world without their phone for 7 days, just because
Not anymore.
It's your phone.
Yeah. First of all, what if that? I would argue that kid probably doesn't know his home phone number or his mom's phone number or his dad. Like, we don't memorize phone numbers anymore.
No, we don't.
So if this kid, I don't know, what if his car breaks down on the side of the road?
Doesn't have a car.
What's he gonna do? He can't.
Sister drives from everywhere. But more importantly, what is he gonna get for 7 days without his phone? I'm gonna buy you a new screen.
Yeah. And
how much does it cost to go down to the guy on Melrose that changes your screen in 30 seconds? It costs about $60.
Yeah, they have the sign outside that says phone repair.
So $60, he's going to go out without a phone for a week?
Which brings up another point. Does he have a job? He's got to be 67. Like, he's definitely at least a junior. Can we agree on that?
I don't know.
He doesn't have does he do chores? Does he get an allowance? Like, what does this kid do? It seems like none of their kids do anything. Sure, he's supposed to be at soccer practice later, but just doesn't go. Where's the responsibility of these kids? It doesn't exist. This is the worst family in the history of the world. But the most important point, Dan, is where does the girl who breaks the kitchen safe get the goggles that she's wearing for eye protection?
Did she have goggles on?
She had freaking goggles on. I was so confused. I don't know where she got them from, but all of a sudden she had goggles and she smashes the thing, takes the goggles off, and runs. And I was like, we just got science goggles laying around? What's happening?
I got to say this. In my house, we had science goggles.
I believe that. I really do.
We had a science house. So now the little girl has her phone, no problems. She's texting with all her friends, and she takes a picture of herself, and then one of the other friends says, "Look at your elephant ears." And I literally read that one, and I was like, oh, that's really nice. I thought the girl was being nice.
Oh, Dan.
So,
Dan's always wanted bigger ears. He's got small ears. What are you going to do? That's so funny, Dan.
That's why I put this on, because of my tiny ears. I don't want you to have to look at them. I feel embarrassed.
Cover them up. I don't know how you felt about this, but this is, I think, the one thing that does worry me about social media and having kids.
Absolutely.
Is the self-esteem thing is very real.
Very real.
It makes me very nervous about having kids.
And then they talk about like some of the real stuff, which is that teen suicides are up. These, especially with the girls, and they say one thing: there's less dating and there's less driving, and part of that, I think, is that girls don't want to deal with the new social media boys who just want to sit there and play video games.
Yeah.
And the girls then form into their girl groups, and they get all the socialization they need from other girls. And I see it in these some younger girls. They have like all these friends that are female or whatever, and they have these groups. They just do stuff with their friends. They don't need to be validated by a male boy who's going to tell them what to do and what to think and where to eat and everything else. And it's like, I don't see that as the most unhealthy thing in the world. These girls don't want to date these freaking incels. And the boys seem like they're the problem.
Yes, I agree. And I don't have kids. Let me just say that. So I don't have the facts to back this up. But I do feel like the boys of this generation are what's the right term? Fuck boys. You know what I mean? Like, we've gotten to this point where they don't court anyone. It's more just like, hey, show me your titties. Like, that's like a real thing that happens.
Sure.
And that is a problem. And it's just so easy. Like on Instagram, you just say like, "Oh, you're hot. Show us your boobs." It's I swear to God, this happens, Dan.
Okay.
Like
I believe you. I don't know about this.
it's a thing, and it's just we've lost this. I mean, now I sound old. We've lost this innocence, is what I was going to say, and that just makes me want to punch myself in the face. I don't know. Social media is just it is the dating is a weird thing. That's all we can say. I agree on that point.
So he starts getting depressed, and then the computer wants to drag him back in.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry. I want to say one thing.
Sure.
The young daughter who then cries in the mirror, way too
sad.
Good for this documentary.
She was good.
Holy crap. She is super talented, and I hope she gets some real work.
It was real emotional. It was sad. These assholes tormenting her with the elephant ears.
Yeah.
So
even though Dan thought it was a compliment.
I did. I was like, oh, Dumbo. I like Dumbo.
Oh my God.
So, okay. So basically, we just go through this whole. Now, I thought the second half of the thing was terrible. This is when it gets really terrible. So Benji is going down the dark path. They suck him back into his phone, so he breaks the rules with his mom. No consequences to that, of course.
Of course.
And then he's like starts obsessing over his ex-girlfriend. And then this other girl is like literally there, like in real life. Hey, Benji, pay attention to me. I'm hot. Yeah. I want to go on a date with you, essentially. And he like doesn't even look at her. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to spend my time pining over an ex-girlfriend when there's like a cute girl like asking me questions. You know, anytime in my life a cute girl asks me questions, I perked up and paid attention.
So I don't really know. I don't have facts for this to back this up, but that might be because we're of a different generation, Dan. Because at this point, there's a cute girl in real life for some reason just doesn't have the appeal of a cute girl online. You don't think so?
No, don't believe it, because in this stupid movie they set up that he was interested in her. He looks at her with pining eyes. You telling me he's more interested in obsessing over a girl that is gone and rejected him as opposed to the girl that he liked 2 scenes ago?
Yeah, because you always want what you can't have, right? That's a whole different problem.
No. I usually want what I can have, like if I'm looking for a treat, I don't go, damn, I don't have other treats. I'm not going to eat these delicious treats I have in the treat bowl. No,
that's a good point.
I feast from the treat bowl.
And I almost eat double, because then I'm like, oh man, it's not as good as the one I really want. So I better just keep going and shove it in. So
then we do a whole thing about Pizzagate, which is just stupid.
I'll be honest, never heard of that before in my life. I somehow missed that entire thing.
Good job, Tony. Good job being part of our society.
I know. I don't know.
Good job.
It sounds cool, though.
Then we have a whole thing about Tristan pulls out this thing where people spread fake news six times faster than real news, and which I looked up the study, and it's pretty interesting. So let me ask you a question, Tony.
Yes.
Here's 2 stories I'm gonna give to you.
Yeah.
One is true, and one is not true. And tell me, which one do you think is going to spread faster? Joe Biden walked his dog today. Joe Biden murdered his dog with a giant knife today because Satan told him to. Which one do you think would spread a lot faster?
This is my problem with that statement as well, is because, we're going to spread the one that shocks us. The one that's, because the other one is just kind of like, oh, okay, that's just like a fact. But this other one, wow, this is wild. Let's get it out there. That's just.
The Dow Jones stayed exactly the same today, or the Dow Jones is 1 million times higher today.
Yeah. I pick the second one.
Surprise, surprise. Things that are interesting or unusual are interesting and unusual.
So we like to spread them. However, if there's a cute picture of him walking the dog, I might also spread that one. Just for the record.
absolutely would spread that one. It's a cute dog. Um, let's. Where are we at? Yeah, we're getting.
I don't know.
So then we do a whole thing about Myanmar. Had you ever heard of Myanmar before?
I had, yeah. Unfortunately, this one, I was, yeah.
And Myanmar is a terrible thing, and they use social media to go after the Hindar. I don't know how to say that word. The Muslims. It's an underserviced Muslim population within the rest of this population, and they're doing terrible things to them, putting them in camps and driving them out, and it's a huge refugee crisis, and it's a huge crisis, and they are trying to blame social media on this.
Yeah.
One word, Tony: the Holocaust.
Did they have social media during the Holocaust, Dan?
No, they didn't.
Are you sure? Maybe they did.
They had things called newspapers and speeches and handbills and all sorts of ways to spread propaganda
Yes.
that were just as effective and did the exact same thing that social media is doing now. And so to put this on social media as being the problem with this issue, it's not the issue. Who's the issue, Tony?
The people are the issue. Bad people using the tools for bad reasons.
Are the issue.
Yeah, no, this is part of this is why I feel like the documentary veers into this dangerous propaganda thing where they take these very serious issues and are like pointed at social media, and it's not social media's fault. Yes, they can use these tools. Again, we're just harping on the same things, but we have to deal with what's behind that. We're doomed.
We are doomed, but you know what? We're not doomed. So then Benji goes on his giant crash where he starts being part of the center left, and he goes to a protest, and he's being indoctrinated into all sorts of things he never thought he would end up thinking about, and blah 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 blah. And through this whole thing, they're intercutting real footage with their bullshit footage. And that was like, I found that outrageous.
Well, because it's super manipulative and also done very poorly, I might just say.
Wow, the thing that's trying to explain to us that social media and media can be manipulating is now sitting here trying to manipulate us to think that its central thesis is correct.
Correct. Yes, that is right. I know. It's dangerous.
And then we get to, this is basically the end of the doc, where they talk about how this is going to lead to the end of society, the end of democracy. It's probably going to lead to, I think someone says civil war.
Yep.
And it's going to destroy our civilization.
Yep. I mean, that's not, inciting any sort of feelings. They're not trying to stir up the pot at all.
And then they talk about, then we actually have somebody actually talk a little bit about regulation. And then we have another guy talk about the responsibility to change.
Yep, for just very brief moments.
And that's pretty much the documentary, except the last part where the dude asks a couple of the people that actually have children, how do you deal with your children and social media? And they're like, oh, well, we regulate social media with our children. We're not going to let our children have phones until they're teenagers. And we're going to do all these things. And then the guy's like, and how do they take that? And they're like, well, our kids do fine with that. Yeah. So basically the ending of it is, if you regulate your children and you're good parents and you're not idiots, you can deal with all of these things. They are not out of our control. They're completely within our control if we're not 100%. Idiots.
And that's where I also got upset, is that my answer to that is duh. Why you it's not like you just let your kids do whatever they want anytime. Like you set boundaries, you set rules. It's just what you do as a parent. And again, I'm not a parent, so take this with a grain of salt. Everybody, don't at me. I'm kidding. Please do. I need all the likes and the comments. But it's just like, set boundaries with these things. It's the same thing. It reminds me again of the video game thing, where people were like, oh, it's taking over their lives. It's creating all this stuff and kids are playing it all the time. It's just like, well, then turn it off. They're kids. Take it away from them for a little bit. Set rules. Be like, you can play from this time to this time. Do your homework first, then you get an hour of play time, and then you're in bed. I don't know. It's weird to me.
And that's the whole thing is you have to, in the end, you have to be responsible for yourself. And if you have kids, you have to be responsible for them. And if you choose not to be responsible, you're choosing not to be responsible.
Yeah, you can't just point the finger at someone else then.
You can't say, this phone is making me irresponsible and I have no control over that. Because it was interesting. Sometimes I'll have my, I'm on the computer all day. I'm on my phone all day, but sometimes I'll just set my phone down somewhere and hours will pass, maybe because I'm on the computer.
Sure.
And do I start crying and having problems because I don't have my phone right next to me?
You might.
Yeah, I do.
I don't. You're very emotional, Dan. I will say, what was it, Thursday? Yeah. I have two phones. I'm part of the problem. I have a work phone and I have a regular phone. I forgot to turn on my work phone Thursday during work hours. And it wasn't until 2:30 p.m. where I was like, why am I not doing anything today? And then I turned on my phone and I had like 46 emails. And I was like, oh shit, that's right.
Wait a second. Were you like sitting on the computer playing video games while you're supposed to be working?
I was reading a book. I was reading a book that morning. I was just like, it feels late. I think I should be doing something. And then it turns out, I was supposed to be doing stuff and I didn't do it.
Wait a second.
Books are dangerous, Dan. That's what I'm saying. We got to get rid of the literature so people can be responsible again.
Put your book down and pick up your phone, person. And like, you got no shit for doing this, right?
I got tons of shit, but I didn't fuck anything up. Luckily, I was able to get everything done still by the end of the day. No. But my boss was like, the last thing he sent was just, where the fuck are you? It's like, oh man, I'm sorry. Quarantine, man. They can't keep track of you.
I used to have a job where I'd go home and sleep.
Oh, that's nice.
It was nice.
I'm not a big nap guy, if I'm being honest. I can't nap and then wake up. I'm super groggy the rest of the day. It doesn't rejuvenate me. I think I'm doing it wrong.
There it is. I have one last little story. I was walking to the post office like I did.
Is this recent?
Yeah, this was just yesterday, the day before. And I look over, and across the street is a woman, and she's on her phone. And I say to myself, what else could that woman be doing right now that's productive? She could be looking at the sky, the red sun from all the fires. She could be looking at the filth that fills our streets. She could be looking at all the cars that are polluting our world. Or she could be diverting herself for 30 seconds, waiting for the crosswalk on her phone. I'll take that.
And you don't know. Maybe she's doing something productive. Maybe she's working while she's walking to the post office. Look at that. She's multitasking. Or maybe she's playing Pokemon Go and really fulfilling her life's goals.
So usually at the end of this, we talk about something we really liked. I don't know if you have something queued up, but I wanted to have a quick discussion about the Eurovision movie, which I just watched.
Okay.
And so if you have something else positive, but I want to spend a few minutes talking about how, as opposed to a phone, which I never cry over the like button, Eurovision, the movie, tears running down my face.
That makes me genuinely so happy, Dan.
It was just beautiful about Will Ferrell's, like, he's kind of an asshole and he's kind of messed up and he's kind of self-centered. But in the end, this guy has a dream, and the female counterpart, Secret, she has a dream too, and they figure out a way for these dreams to come true. And he makes a sacrifice for her good, and he is selfish, and he learns to be less selfish. He's still selfish,
of course, but
he's
just
still
less
selfish.
so.
He learns to be less selfish.
It's called compromise, guys.
Yes. And there are so many good things in this movie that are so funny, and the music is so wonderful, and it's a goddamn love letter to something he loves.
Dan, I can't explain to you how happy it makes me that this is the way you feel about this movie. I don't know if you remember, but this was one of my
It was one of your picks.
Picks back in the day, and you were like, oh, I was going to pick it for this podcast.
I was, because I looked at the trailer and I thought it was going to be terrible.
Which I totally get. The trailer does not look good at all, but it is. I love this movie. I've actually watched it a couple times since then, and I think it's one of his best. I really do.
So talk about it some more. What is it that you loved about it?
So most Will Ferrell movies are Will Ferrell being a character. I won't say a caricature. I think he's very talented. I think he's great, but
yes.
There's never like a real emotional track with his characters. They learn lessons and they kind of do stuff. It's always the same bits, but this movie, for whatever reason, is like a real movie. Like it brings up emotions, and these characters are fully fleshed out people, and even like the side characters have opinions and thoughts, and they feel like real people. This place feels lived in, and yes, the music, awesome. It's so good. I don't think it's. I don't want to cause any. I don't want to start a rumor, but I don't think it's Rachel singing.
No, it's enough. I read all about how they made all the songs. They hired like these Scandinavian dudes that are super work on it, and then they hired all their friends, and everybody took swings at all this stuff, and they just worked their asses off. And when you really all the ya ya ding dong, they made up that song. When you first see this song in the movie, you're like, this is a real thing because it feels so real.
Yes.
And that whole song is just one giant dick joke. Did you look at the lyrics?
No, of course not.
Oh, God,
I'm gonna now.
Go read the lyrics. It's a giant dick joke. Every line is a dick joke. And then the main song is that it's just they took as many cliches as they could and just piled them on top of each other, and none of the things fit together. One of the lines in the final song is the screams of seagulls. And they talk about the whales being wonderful people, I think. And when you really look at it, there's just like the jokes are so layered, but they're made so lovingly.
Yes.
And then
it's beautiful. I love it.
And the bad guy, the Russian guy, turns out to not be a bad guy.
Yeah.
In like a beautifully emotional scene throughout the whole movie, he only wanted what was best for the female lead character. Mm-hmm. That's all he ever. I mean, he wanted a little bit for himself also.
Well, sure, but he's human, and that's what I mean by they're real, fully fleshed out people. Even like we have our two main casts, which are great, but the world and the people around them are real people. It's wild. In a comedy, that's very rare, I think.
So, do you have anything positive? You have something you want to talk about?
I mean, not in depth like you, but I will say that last night I watched I did watch Disney Plus, and I watched Phineas and Ferb's new movie, Candace's Big Adventure, and it was dynamite, Dan. I genuinely laughed a bunch during this. I mean, I love Phineas and Ferb. I think it's very clever and very cute. But that would be my pick.
Oh, very good. So this being a very special episode, which is going to drop sort of whenever Tony can get it ready.
Whenever I feel like it.
Tony,
I'm going to manipulate you guys. I'm going to make you think that it's coming, and then it's going to go.
We want to get this up so we can get that value of people still being interested in this thing, Tony. As opposed to our usual movies from 2005, which people are like, we were so over this. Why are you guys going back to this? We'd forgotten this even existed.
Well, you should never forget. Never forget, right? Isn't that, yeah.
Never forget. This has been a very special episode of Hate Watching with Dan and Tony. I'm Dan.
And I'm Tony.
Keep watching the movies.
Hate watching!